Hello, this is Stephanie Swisher from Stephanie Swisher Art. Today we're going to be doing a tulip painting tutorial. We are going to do a really thick acrylic impasto effect. I'm going to be using 3 different colors, a light purple, a chrome oxide green, and a titanium white. You can feel free to mix it up if you would rather your tulips be pink or yellow, that's fine. I just want to keep it beginner friendly. So I'm going to show you how to use a palette knife to make your tulips today, and also how to use just a paintbrush, a filbert paintbrush, to make the tulips as well. So for our background, I just want to keep it like an off-white. So I'm just going to do like a dab, just a very small dab of the green, because I just want to make the titanium white is like the brightest white. So I just want to make it where it is not such a bright white. It is a little more of an off-white. So to do that, I'm just going to add a tiny dab of the green and mix that in with the palette knife. And then if I need to, I'll go back and get another little dab until I get it to the off-white that I'm looking for. So basically, we're looking for an extremely, extremely light green color. And if you don't have a chrome oxide green, it'll be fine to use any green that you have, and then add just a tiny dab of brown to it, and that will create the chrome oxide green color if you don't have it and you would like to use that green color. So basically, I'm just using my palette knife now, getting it all mixed in well. I think it is now the color that I want to go with for my background. As you can see, it's just a little bit of an off-white now, instead of that bright titanium white. And you could also, if you want, use a paintbrush on this background. What I'll probably do is use the palette knife a little and the paintbrush a little. So to go ahead and just smear it on, I am using my palette knife. And when you're using your palette knife, you don't want to press down really hard. You want to press down lightly enough that it will spread across the canvas. You can go up and down with your strokes. You can go side to side with your strokes. It just depends on the pattern that you want in your background. If you want to see those strokes in the background, then you can just kind of use a little bit of a lighter pressure. If you want to spread it out a little bit more and make it thinner, you'll just use a little bit more firm pressure. So basically, I'm just getting this all smeared on there well. And I want to take a minute and say thank you very much for joining me today. I am in the process of starting my art business here in 2024. I've wanted to do it for years. I just am so passionate about creating art, painting. I love it, and it would be a dream come true if I could make a business out of it. So I'm going for that this year. And when you guys watch these tutorials, that helps me along the way, and so I really appreciate you tuning in, and I really hope I can be very helpful in someone's artistic journey. A lot of the tutorials I'll be doing are going to be targeted to beginning painters, so I'll be doing the tutorials, and then I'll also be doing videos where I give advice about different products that have worked out well for me over the years. And no, of course, I'm just starting out on YouTube, so no sponsoring. No one is sponsoring anything on here. When you see a brand that I'm using, it's just the brand that I'm using and that I prefer and that has worked for me. So like I said, definitely there's no one sponsoring this, because this is literally like my second video on YouTube, so none of that. So I have now decided that I want to see kind of some brush stroke patterns on my background, as opposed to just the palette knife. So I am taking my paintbrush and using really thin pressure, like really not thin, but really light pressure, to make these little, almost like little crisscross strokes. And I really like the way that you can see the little individual fiber strokes from the brush. It almost looks like little grass blades in a way, and I think that's kind of a cool looking background. So now what I'm going to do is just paint the sides. You don't have to paint the sides. Some people prefer to not paint the sides of the canvas. I tend to think it looks a little bit better to paint the sides of the canvas, so I usually do that. Some people will even paint the sides black, like no matter what colors that they used in their painting. But I have always preferred to just paint my sides, my background color. So you're going to want to let this background dry for a little while before you go on to painting the flowers. So I would say let it dry for probably anywhere from 30 minutes to a couple of hours, just depending on the amount of acrylic you used on your background. If you used a smaller amount of acrylic on your background, you may be fine even in 10-15 minutes. If you use quite a bit of acrylic on your background, you might want to at least go like 30 minutes, an hour or so before you apply your other layers. But however, if you are really in a hurry, you can actually get your hair dryer and don't get the hair dryer too awfully close to the acrylic, but hold it far enough away that it gets plenty of that warm air, and that will help it to dry really quickly if you are in a hurry and you don't want or don't have time to wait for the background to dry. So now we are painting our tulip leaves, and the leaves on tulips I think are beautiful. They're like really long leaves, almost the same height as the actual stem itself. So if it is helpful to you, you can always Google an image of tulips to see how those tulip leaves are. I know most people, they already have in their heads the bud of the, the flower of the tulip, how it looks, but you might not know right off bat exactly what the leaves of the tulip look like. So you can always just, Google a picture of that. And tulips are definitely my favorite flower. I have to say, I absolutely love them. They're just so beautiful. So I'm using the chrome oxide green for this stem and leaves. And like I said before, if you don't have a chrome oxide green, you can grab one of your greens that you do have and add some brown. Just a little tiny bit of brown at a time until you get it to, close to the shade that you would like. You just do, you want to make sure that this bottom layer, this first layer, is going to be the darkest shade of green that you use, because we're going to put highlight colors on top of it. So we'll probably do a darker color, then like a mid color, and then a really light highlight color. So the top of the leaves are a little almost, you could make yours kind of pointy like mine. If you wanted to round the tip of your leaf off there at top, you can round that tip off a little bit. It's whatever you like. I said, I think in my last painting tutorial, it's really important to understand that anytime you're watching a painting tutorial, you do not have to do it exactly like the artist is showing you how to do it. You could pick different colors if you want. If you think, I think this will look better with, shaped a little differently, formed a little differently, then absolutely take the liberty to make it how you want, because that's the beauty of art. There is no right, there is no wrong. It can be what you want it to be and what you love. So So absolutely feel free to do that. You don't have to feel the stress of, thinking, oh, I have to make this an exact replica when you're watching the painting tutorials. So definitely take pride when you put some of your differences in, because that'll make it a little more unique to yourself. So I think that's awesome. So I had put down my first shade of chrome oxide green. Now, what I did is I mixed a little bit of the titanium white with that chrome oxide green. And now we have a little bit of a lighter color. And I'm just going to put that on top of that first layer. And we don't want to totally cover up the first layer of our darker green. We want some of that peeking through. That way you'll be able to see, in the end, you'll be able to see like the 3 different colors of green that are on the leaves. That just makes it a little more, it'll make it pop out a little bit more, and it'll be a little more realistic to what you would see in real life. Like if you looked at the stems in real life, you could see, these different shades of green a lot of the time. And for now, I'm just going to do the first 2 shades of green and then do some of the tulips. And then we will come back and actually add the lightest highlight color to the tulip leaves a little later on in the painting. So now we are moving on to the second stem, and as you can see, I am not making it just straight up and down. I'm giving it kind of some swirl. If I had it straight up, I feel like it would look a little less interesting. One of the things I go for pretty much in all of my floral paintings is to create movement in the painting. So we almost want these tulips to look as they would look perhaps if the wind were blowing on them. Instead of sticking, standing straight up, they're going to the side a little bit, they're swaying a little bit. So not having them just straight up and down is what's going to create that movement. So on this one, I kind of did a bit of a swirl on the stem, and then this second leaf, we are doing just like the first one. We're laying down that chrome oxide, and it of course is the darkest chrome oxide that does not have any of the white mixed with it. You'll probably have to get some more out of your tube, or you may have to, if you're making your chrome oxide green, you may have to get more of it out and add a little bit of brown to that again to get it the same shade that you were using earlier in your first tulip. So now on this second tulip, you'll notice that I kind of have it swaying to the side a little bit. Just creating that movement. The strokes that I'm using, I wouldn't call them light strokes. I'm putting a little bit of pressure on that because I do want to spread the paint. But at the same time, I'm not putting too much pressure. I do want to still see the little, and I am using quite a thick acrylic still. So I'm really loading my brush up well with that paint. Each time I get a little bit of the paint, I'm not doing just a little dab, I'm doing a good dollop on there because, I tend to paint with that impasto effect. I really like the thick acrylic effect to the majority of my paintings. So you'll need quite a bit on your brush each time. Oh, well, hello. I have a visitor, my kitty cat. You can probably hear her purring. She can't stand it when I'm painting. She tries to hop up and get to my hand, put that brush down and pet me. I've had her before sit down on the canvas when I was trying to make a tutorial. She's like my kids. She wants to go wherever I go. Don't you, Kit? Yeah. So now we're applying our lighter shade of green, and that of course is that mixture was just the chrome oxide green mixed with our titanium white. And we just want to make sure as we're putting it on that we don't cover the entire first layer of paint because we do still want to see that darker shade. That way, in the end, you'll be able to see our various shades of green on the plant. And I am getting a good dollop there of thick paint and brushing on. And if you guys are watching this, then comment below and tell me where you guys are from. If you are an artist or if you're just a beginning painter wanting to learn, tell me a bit about yourselves. I would love it. One of the really cool things about YouTube, I know I hear other people who give tutorials on YouTube talking about, the friends that they've made through art, and I just think it's really cool to the fact that you can get to know other creatives. So yeah, drop a comment below and tell me a little bit about yourself. Okay, so we are now ready to move on to our third tulip. And for this one, I actually want to do one drooping down, just like you would probably see if you were looking at a tulip field. Some of them will be drooping over. I just think it adds some character to the painting. So let's paint one kind of falling over. So it's kind of going to be like it is peeking out from the tulip that we just painted. We'll kind of pretend like it's in behind that one. So you just want to make sure that you keep the one we just painted on top. So don't put the one that's drooped over, don't put any of those leaves on top of the one you just did beforehand. You want to keep it like it's behind that one. And that'll kind of be the key to also creating a little bit of distance in the painting. So just doing our first layer of that chrome oxide green. Then once you get your leaves shaped how you would like them to, you'll go back and put your lighter color on, your chrome oxide and titanium white mixture. And I'm doing this pretty lightly so I can still see those cool little brush strokes, patterns in my paint. Alright, I think that looks pretty cute. I'm already excited about getting to the point where we can actually make the flower part, right? But I am definitely a self-professed slow painter. I tend to really paint slowly. I think that's because I love it so much and enjoy it, and it's a very calming, peaceful thing for me. So I tend to just savor it, to just really take my time and enjoy it. So now we're moving on to our fourth tulip. And the stem, when I drew it, I didn't want to draw it just straight up and down. I wanted to kind of have it swaying to the side. That way it does create movement in the painting. I really think that a painting just really comes alive more if you have movement in it and distance in it, and this will definitely help create that movement. So we're just using our same chrome oxide green. On the second leaf, I don't think I'm going to make it appear like it's in front of the little drooping tulip leaf that we did. I want to keep this kind of looking like they're sort of side by side. So I'm not going to be overlapping this leaf right here over the top of any of the drooping leaf. If you chose to, that would be totally fine. You could overlap it just a little bit. You just want to be sure that if you do, that you don't overlap it so much that you get close to the stem, because we'll be needing to form the little bud of the flower there by the stem. So now I'm just going to add some of the lighter color, the chrome oxide green mixed with some white. So I have actually been wondering, do you guys have a favorite flower? Leave me a comment and tell me what your favorite flower is. And in my next painting tutorial, I'll pick one that has been listed to do a painting tutorial of. So it could be, of course, a rose, hydrangeas, the list goes on. There's so many different flowers. And if you mention a flower that, I'm not familiar with, and that's totally fine. I can just look it up, Google it, get a visual of it. You may actually, know some beautiful flowers that I'm not even familiar with, and I love flowers, so I love really painting flowers. I don't have a green thumb at all. I wish I did. My mama and my mom always planted lots of flowers, and they were really good at it. And I wish when I was younger that I had really taken the time to learn the process from them. But I didn't, unfortunately. My mama has passed away now, but maybe I could have my mom come over this summer, or this spring, I should say, and finally teach me, because it's probably about time I learned how to actually plant them instead of just paint them. Anyway, okay, so now what I'm doing is I feel like I got my stem and leaves on this one a little too light for my liking. So I'm just going to go back and apply more of the darker color, just the plain oxide green, to those leaves and stem. That way you can just see the color variation a little bit more. And you may like yours covered more with the lighter color, and that's totally fine too. Just for my liking, I kind of wanted more of the darker color peeking through. And so since I covered it up a little much, I just can simply go back and add more of that darker color. That's, the really awesome thing about painting is if you go, I don't know if I like that so much, then all you have to do is paint over it. So that's definitely an advantage when it comes to painting. If you don't like it, you can just paint over it. So now on to our 5th tulip. And once again, I don't want to make that straight up and down. I want to give it that movement, that sway effect. With this first leaf here, I overlapped a little bit of the last tulip that we did, because I want this one to look like it's in front of that one. And then this second leaf here, I am not going to overlap with the tulip that's next to it. So that tulip there, that's the first one that we did that's peeking out from the corner. I want that one to look like it's actually in front of the one that I am painting now. And hopefully that makes sense. If not, luckily, you have the visual. And also just a reminder for you guys, if you feel like I am working too fast for you, you can feel free, of course, just to pause as you go and take as much time as you need before you move on to a new section. And if you feel like I'm working too slowly for you, then of course you can just fast forward if need be, because everybody kind of works at a different pace when it comes to painting, especially when you're like a beginner. You tend to work a little more slowly, of course. So now I'm just applying the lighter color, and we're almost to the good part. We're almost to the flower part that we're going to paint. I'm just going to finish this one, and then in a minute I'm going to be mixing up the highlight color, so the lightest color that we're going to be adding to our tulips. So what you'll do is you'll add some white to the lighter mixture that you already have mixed up. And if you have ran out, all it is the chrome oxide green mixed with some white. So basically you're just now adding more white to get to the shade of a really light green color, because we want it to look like the highlight that you would see when the sun is shining down on the leaves. So it would be that, really, really light green color. So I'm just going to go over my stems. I think I'm going to make the, I am making the entire stem that lightest highlight color. And then in a moment you'll see that I am just putting some highlights on the leaves. And just like before, I said when we were adding the lighter color, the mid color to the leaves, you don't want to cover up the whole entire flower with that highlight color. We just want it to hit parts of the leaf. That way you'll have you can see all three of your different shades of color when you look at the leaves. So now I am showing you a small angle brush that I'm going to be switching to. Using a smaller brush will help me to cover less of the area of the leaves where I just want the highlights. If you don't have an angle brush, that's fine. But if you do have a smaller brush than you've been using for your tulip leaves, then that's good, because the reason I went smaller is because with these highlights, we don't want to cover up the entire leaf. We just want to hit the highlights on places, and it's just easier when you have a smaller brush to do that, to keep it minimal, that way you don't saturate the whole leaf with that lighter color. We just want it in places like where the sun might hit. So basically I just do little up and downward strokes with this smaller brush. So I will just keep adding these highlights to the tulip leaves. And by the way, I know I realized, I have said like a million times during this tutorial. I never realized how much I said until this tutorial. So please disregard all my ums. Hopefully it hasn't driven you crazy. It reminds me of a show I was watching one time. I think maybe it was How I Met Your Mother. And one of them was a newscaster, and she was on the scene, and I don't know if it was that she kept saying while she was live, but it was some sort of gesture, verbal gesture she kept saying over and over, and they decided to make like a drinking game out of it because she was saying it so many times, and every time she said that gesture, they would take a drink, and they all ended up like getting, intoxicated because she said or something like that so many times. So I kind of feel like, people could watch this and also make a game out of how many times I've said So for that, hopefully just disregard that. Anyway, okay, now to, I think, the most fun part. We're going to finally make the flower part for our tulips. And I'm using a violet purple and adding white to that to lighten it up. You can, of course, use like a pink or yellow if you would rather do your tulips that color, but I'm just going to stick with the violet and add some white to that. And we're going to start out by using our palette knife. If you don't have a palette knife, you can absolutely just use a brush. I'm actually going to do this first one with the palette knife, but then the others I'm actually going to be doing with the brush because I actually prefer using the brush, but I did just want to show you how you could use the palette knife for this. And this palette knife is the one that is kind of, the sides, the little tips on the sides are rounded off. You'll find that like if you buy a package of palette knives, that they come in different assortment of shapes, but I think for the tulips, this one shaped like this is the best for forming the tulips. So basically, I am getting a really good thick dab of paint onto this palette knife, and I'm making basically one petal to the left, one petal to the right. You want the bottom part to kind of, that's close to the stem, to kind of swoop around to make kind of like an oval shape. And then I'm applying the third petal. And the key to using this palette knife is to really use light pressure. If you use a lot of pressure, you're just going to smear out your paint a lot wider than you would like. So when you use that really light pressure with the palette knife, you're able to make the different little shapes and little lines of the little leaves. So now what I'm going to do is just take a plain titanium white right out of the bottle. Nothing mixed with it, just plain old white. And if you don't have a titanium white, you can use any color white that you have. And just smearing that white straight in to the violet. Once again, just using very, very light pressure, just enough pressure to drag along the white paint. And they'll kind of blend together, which is an effect that we want. And you can, of course, if you're not really familiar with the way tulips look, just pull up an image on Google of tulips. And we're, of course, not trying to make this, exact to what a tulip would look like. We still want to keep it somewhat impressionistic, somewhat abstract, because I feel like that's just, for me, that's just more fun to paint that way. I have great respect for people who can paint realism. That is awesome. But to me, I feel like I would get a little bit bored. I really like the freedom of being able to make something unique. So now I am going to use the brush. I'm using a large filbert brush. You could use a square brush, but it would be a little bit harder to form these shape of tulip leaves with that. So if you do have a filbert, I would definitely recommend using it. So basically the same thing as far as getting a really big dab of paint, because we are, doing this impasto, really thick technique with these tulips, which I think tulips always look, in my opinion, the best when the really thick acrylic impasto look is utilized. So I am also not pressing down real hard with the brush. I am doing it kind of lightly, and you will see that you can actually see the little individual streaks from the little fibers, like the little hair fibers of the brush. And I really like that effect it creates, which is why I actually kind of prefer using the filbert brush as opposed to the palette knife. But if you really like using the palette knife, then absolutely go ahead and do all of your tulips with the palette knife. And if you're just trying to experiment around and see what you like best, then you could do some with the palette knife and some with the brush, just to see how you feel about it and what you like. And so now I'm just going back and getting the plain titanium white to put that highlight in. And once again, just the thin pressure and using that, or I'm sorry, not thin, but light pressure will kind of make the violet and the white come together, and also give you your little petal shapes and streaks. For this one, I just did the petal on the right, the petal on the left, and then I do the petal down the middle. I like the way the tulips look, that shape probably best. I may do a couple a little differently, but for this first two, I just waited and added that middle petal last on the top of the left and right little tulip. So now on to our next one. Basically just the same thing I'm doing here, using really, and you'll see me kind of like hitting my brush against the canvas when I do that. It's just because I'm trying to get my dollop of paint kind of onto the canvas before I shape it, because I want that top part to remain like really, that edge to remain really thick. So if you're wondering what I'm doing when I'm doing that, it's just kind of trying to get the dollop of paint more down toward the tip of my brush so I can round off the top of that tulip in the shape that I want. And you could go either, if you don't want to put as much of the white highlight on your tulips, you don't have to do that. I mean, you could even make these tulips, if you wanted to, making it super beginner friendly, and just use the one color, the first color with like the, whatever color you want, the violet or pink or yellow, whichever, mixed with the white. You could stick, to doing that if you wanted to. You don't even have to add the white highlight on here, but I just think that it just gives it a nice variation of color and makes it just a little bit more lifelike. I think that's one of the really pretty things about flowers, is they have so many different, shades. You can usually see at least 3 good different shades of color when you look at flowers. So now I just have the canvas turned upside down because I'm forming the upside down tulip, and it would have been really hard to do, I think, painting it upside down, so that's why I just lift the canvas to do it. And I think that one turned out really cute. I really like the way that one turned out. Okay, now so on to our 5th tulip. If you wanted to go back and use your palette knife again, you could, or if you're like myself and you prefer the brush, just you can stick with that. I really like the way the acrylic paint looks when the sun hits it, the like natural highlight that it creates. It's so pretty. I try to do these tutorials sitting where there's plenty of natural light, so that you can get, a realistic look at the actual colors of the paint without the video distorting it any. And if you're if you're somewhere where it's not well lit, then the paint colors definitely don't look realistic to what I'm doing here in real life. So sitting next to, sitting in good natural lighting helps a lot just to maintain the actual color of the acrylic paint. I actually think I may go back up to the one that's extra white up there and add a little bit, add a little bit more. It's a little too white for my liking. I actually want a little more violet on that. Yeah, I think that looks better. It was a little too white for my liking. Even though I have to say it would be really super pretty too, actually, to do just some white tulips. That would be like really super beginner friendly. You wouldn't even have to mix anything then. You could just do your plain white tulip, and that would be really pretty too. It's starting to rain outside. You may hear the raindrops on this video, actually. That would actually be quite relaxing, I feel like, raindrops and painting. It would have a very relaxed Bob Ross feel to it. I really like to go like thrift shopping, like at Goodwill and places like that, to try to find things that I can upcycle, because I really like to upcycle. My daughter and I went through a phase where we upcycled a lot of stuff, furniture, figurines, stuff like that, and it's just really fun too, because you can like paint those as well with like the acrylic paint and some other products. And do any of you like to upcycle or watch the videos of people upcycling? I really love those videos. If you have a upcycling channel, then pop your link down below in the comments, because I would love to check out your channel, because I love upcycling products, especially home decor. Okay, so I have decided, since the background is just really white, that I want to just add a little something to it. So I am going to take some gold leaf. I don't know if you're familiar with gold leaf or not. You can actually get it like at any of your crafting stores, Hobby Lobby or Michael's. I think I got this at Michael's, and it comes in the glitter section, and it basically looks almost like aluminum foil looks, except it's gold. It's really shiny gold, and it's very extremely delicate. And sometimes it comes in larger strips, so I kind of just rub my fingers together, and it just kind of shreds apart really easy. And what you want to do is get what is called Mod Podge, and it is basically a really good glue that dries clear. And you put a layer of that Mod Podge down with a brush, and then you get some of the gold leaf on that brush and just brush it right onto the canvas. I'm just going to put some of this gold leaf just on the corners, and I think maybe the bottom of the canvas. And when the Mod Podge dries, that gold leaf will be really sparkly and bright, and I feel like it just gives a little extra color to the painting. You don't have to do that. You can absolutely, I think it was also really pretty without it. I just wanted to show you that you could use this product, gold leaf, in your paintings. It's just a little extra something you could add if you feel like it needs a little pop of something else. And if I feel like that on the paintings with my white backgrounds, usually I will add the gold leaf to it. And then I actually decided, I really like the look of the gold with the violet. So I'm now taking a metallic marker, and I am going to basically put some gold highlights on the leaves, just to kind of make them pop and stand out a little bit more, and then it matches like the gold leaf. It just kind of pulls it together nicely. This is also something else you totally do not have to do. The painting, I think, looks good without it. It's just a little extra something that you can do if you wanted to. Right now I'm very into metallic colors. I'm going through a metallic phase, and I have really been using a lot of like the silver metallic and the gold metallic, putting highlights on my acrylic paintings, and I really like the effect that it creates. It just really creates a shine that pops, and I really like that. So, but like I said, you absolutely do not have to do that. You should be really proud of yourself, especially if you're a really beginner at painting, that you have, came this far and created these flowers. I hope that you have really enjoyed your time today painting. I know I have really enjoyed it. Anytime I get to paint, I am definitely in my happy place, my most calm and relaxed place. I can definitely say that painting has been very beneficial for my anxiety. I am someone who has struggled with anxiety my whole life, and I really was surprised at how peaceful and calm I felt when I was painting. So if you're somebody who is curious about, I wonder if this could help with anxiety issues, then I say absolutely give it a try, and you will probably be really surprised at how calm you feel when you're painting. So I am now just going to add my signature. I'm just going to use the gold pen marker that I've been using. I would normally sign it on top where it's more visible, but because I added the gold leaf, there really wasn't anywhere to add it on the painting, so I'm just going to put it here on the side. And then I'm going to put this on my easel outside. There you go, so that you can see in the natural sunlight how it turned out. You should display your work somewhere where all your friends and family can see your accomplishment. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.